Hello, welcome to Map It Marketing. And this is Lauren. And Lauren, I've just done an introduction about you and told everyone how amazing I think you are. So I'm not going to rabbit on about what I've said too much, but I was wondering if we could just start right from the bat of you telling everyone a little bit about what you do and a little bit about the Audacious agency, which I teased a little bit about in my introduction, which you haven't heard. Not very fair, right?
Why not? Just throw me in the deep end. I love it. That's brilliant. It's awesome to be here, Rachel. Thank you so much for inviting me on the Map It Marketing podcast. I think what you're doing is brilliant and it's really helping so many people. So well done. That's so cool. And thank you everyone for listening. I mean, you don't have podcasts if you don't have listeners. So thank you so much for tuning in to find out what to do with your marketing and how to get yourself out there. So very quickly, yes, the Audacious agency. What a cool name for a business, eh? I don't know.
Cool name.
I must have been very drunk the night we came up with that one. So what happened was I had my own business, a branding business called the Ultimate Business Propeller. And my current business partner, the lovely Annette Densham, who's my co-founder in the Audacious agency, had her business called Publicity Genie. And for a number of years, we knew each other. We would refer work to each other. You know, she would have clients come to her wanting to get in the media, but she realized they didn't really know their brand. They didn't know their audience. So she'd send them to me. I'd help them figure out all of that. And then I'd pass them back to her. Or I'd have amazing clients who would get their brand sorted. They know their audience. They'd know exactly what their message was. They'd get their books written. They'd start to be speaking and they go, right, I need to get in the media. And I'd go, well, here's Annette, meet Annette. So we were like working together, sort of circling each other and working together for a long time, probably a couple of years. And one day Annette actually said to me, okay, so you've told me that you used to work for world leading advertising agencies. And I did. I used to work at Saatchi & Saatchi and Ogilvy's and Clemenger's and all these amazing agencies who won lots and lots of awards. But she said to me, how come you haven't won any awards? And I went, oh, that's a fair question, you know. And I said to her, well, look, I actually think that awards are a bit of a wank, to be honest with you. They're a bit of an ego trip. They're like, it's all about me. And I'm not the sort of person who wants to jump into the limelight.
I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable, Lauren, because this is the stuff I say. I've won one as well, but I also feel that way. So I understand. And now you're going to tell me and prove to me that I'm wrong, right?
Absolutely, because I had to prove it to myself. I just thought awards were just like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're just a piece of paper or whatever. And so she encouraged me to enter, and I entered. The first awards I entered was an international business award. So I didn't just, you know, try something local. I went, you know, push yourself right out there. So I went for an international Stevie Award, and the Stevies are like the Oscars of business. And they've got a couple of different categories around the world. One of them is the Asia Pacifics, which includes New Zealand, Australia, and the Asia Pacific region. So I entered that and I was up against, I didn't know this at the time, but I was up against some really big advertising and marketing and media companies. And I won a Silver Stevie Award. It was like,
nice one.
And the biggest thing it taught me, Rachel, was well, there are two things. One was there's no such thing as not good enough.
Yeah.
And that was that whole imposter syndrome, you know, the itty bitty shitty committee that all of us have going, yeah, you haven't really done enough. You're not really good enough. And by the way, any minute now, someone's going to find out that you're a fraud. So that knocked that on the head. And the second thing was when I started learning about neurobranding, which is understanding how the brain sees brands, I really was worried about putting myself out there as an expert because I've got no credentials in that. I didn't go to university to study it. I actually contacted one of the leading neurobranding experts in the world, a guy called Peter Stahl. He was based in Germany. And he now lives in Australia, interestingly enough. But I contacted him and we actually managed to have a chat. And I said to him, look, do you think I should go to university? If I did, which one would you suggest? And he looked at what I'd done and he said, look, if you do go to university, you probably would be best being the lecturer. Because if you were a student, you'd have to unlearn so much of what you already know. He said, based on what I see you doing, I think you should just keep doing it. And don't worry about getting credentials. So
it shows, right?
Doesn't it? So by the time I then won an international award for neurobranding, for the program that I'd created to help entrepreneurs understand how the brain sees brands and create a brand that really resonates and engages with your audience, I now had an independent panel of judges who also thought it was worthy and it was good and it was award winning. So that sort of overcame my own little bit of, you know, that itty bitty shitty committee that I wasn't good enough, to the point that what I created was not only good, it was award winning.
I've
So
definitely written that phrase down, by the way. I was like, that phrase is coming out again. Itty
which
bitty
one's that?
shitty
The itty
committee.
bitty shitty committee? Yeah, one of my favourites. You just got to tell them to be quiet every now and again. So after that, I came back from that and I said to Annette, there's something in this. We need to talk more. And we basically started to get together around awards, because from a credibility point of view, it was amazing. From a publicity point of view, it's like media leveraging its socks off.
Yeah.
And from a personal branding point of view, it's absolute gold. So we then looked at it and went, well, we took a couple of people over to the Stevie's, the International Women in Business Awards in New York.
It was in New York, wasn't it? Because I've watched
Yeah.
you guys a couple of, for a few years, just in different Facebook groups and things like that. And I remember watching you go and do that. And it was actually the first time I'd heard of the Stevie Awards. I'd never heard of them before. And I remember you guys did pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first year we went and we were just feeling our way, and we had a great group of women that went with us, and our table was covered with awards, and we had Australian and New Zealand flags. The Americans thought we were an absolute hoot. We were the life and soul of the party. So we went back again the next 2 years. Unfortunately, COVID stopped us from going this last year, and probably this year as well, but we're looking forward to 2022. But yeah, so a great opportunity to network and meet amazing people around the world. So the first time we did it, Annette and I really got together and went, well, this is like on fire. We should just be working together. So we basically, I think we probably were drunk when we came up with the name, probably in New York. And we came up with the Audacious agency and we joined our two businesses together. So personal branding, publicity, marketing strategy, book marketing, getting yourself to be a paid speaker, getting yourself a great online presence, basically positioning yourself as the go-to expert so that you're no longer the world's best kept secret. And we've been doing that now for just over a year together as the Audacious agency. And much as it's funny from the inside looking out, it's like so hard and frustrating and it takes so long and so on. On all accounts, we're absolutely kicking goals. So we're still winning awards. Our clients are doing amazing things. They're getting in the media. They're launching businesses and brands. They're winning awards. They're doing amazing things. And I guess that's what it's all about, isn't it, Rachel? Is if you're
absolutely
successful, then you're successful.
And I think too, I can just hear the joy that's coming out of you as you talk about it. And I had a big year last year. We grew like 300%. And by the end of the year, I was feeling pretty burnt out. And I said this morning on my live, I said, I'm actually feeling a bit guilty about how much I love work now. Like I'm doing all the stuff I love to do. I've managed to get rid of all that other stuff. And it is an amazing thing to grow a business that you love and that you can see all the purpose behind, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole point, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I was talking with a client this morning and we talked about the book, A Man's Search for Meaning, which was written by Viktor Frankl. And he wrote it basically when he was in one of the concentration camps. I mean, what an amazing place, incredible place to write Man's Search for Meaning in such a negative, destructive, awful place. And yet what he did was he saw that if you don't have purpose and if you don't have meaning, your life means very little. So you've got to find stuff that makes you passionate, that gets you out of bed of the morning, that makes you really motivated, because then it's not work, is it?
It's not. It feels like, I used the phrase the other day, it feels like putting a hot knife through butter.
Yeah.
I was actually talking about good selling and how cold calling is often not like putting a hot knife through butter. Luckily, I don't have to do it, but So tell me, like for you, who do you do your best work with? Like how did you work it out? Did you know right away the types of people that you'd work with, or did you struggle at first working out? Like obviously by the time you and Annette got together, you probably had a fair idea, but when you started, did you struggle kind of working out that sweet spot of the people that you'd work with?
No, I knew exactly who I wanted to work with when I started my own business. So I'd come from the large corporate world, working in advertising agencies. I worked as brand manager in corporate. And then I had my own advertising agency in New Zealand before I'd moved out to Australia. And I knew who I didn't want to work with.
Oh, that makes it easier.
So that was easy, yeah. But I saw a trend. So it's when you can find a demand and you've got that expertise that you know is right at the right time in the right place. So what I did my research on was the fastest growing industries, and one of the fastest growing sectors is professional services. So coaches, consultants, business mentors, anyone who sells their time and their expertise for money. And that was growing exponentially, still is. So 70, 80% growth year on year in this particular sector. But with that, I also noticed there was a problem. And the biggest problem was all of these people were getting into their own businesses. They were stepping out of corporate, or they were starting their own consultancy. They were getting started, and they knew nothing about positioning themselves in the marketplace.
They really don't. And they don't have any understanding about pricing, do they? Because they've had high-paying salaries. They've often had huge budgets for marketing where they could waste money on stuff. And suddenly they have to pay for everything and work out how to do it themselves. And they can't do it, say, to an underling, go do this Facebook ad stuff for me, or go write this press release. Suddenly it's all on them, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're the ones who, they want to be out there. They want to be seen as the real estate leader, or the accounting genius, or whatever it is, or the business coach entrepreneur. They want to be out there doing that stuff. And like you say, they can't just hand off to somebody.
No.
They've got to either do it themselves, or in the case of our ideal client, they're using their receptionist to do their social media, or, you know, their wife, or
yes, that's quite common. Yeah.
And there's no real strategy. So they're just all knee-jerk reaction. And they're doing, I guess, the commonality between my clients and Annette's clients, the thing we found that they were both doing that was the problem, we call it WOFTAM, WOFTAM, and it stands for waste of fucking time and money. So
I love it.
I've had enough of this. I've like you say, I've wasted some money boosting ads on Facebook, or I've paid someone thousands of dollars to do my SEO, or I've done all this other, I've wasted all this money and it hasn't delivered me any results. And it's not because it's not possible to get results that way. It's just you don't have a strategy. You don't know what your message is. You don't know how to stand out from the competition. You haven't worked out what's the hook. Why is it that somebody should care? Why should they want to talk to me? And that's why they end up doing WOFTAM.
It's so, I think this is the biggest thing, because I run a whole day called Map It, which is what this podcast is based on, and it's tactics. And for the first year or so, I just did that. And then I realized that I was actually creating a nightmare for clients or people coming who were going and doing all these tactics, and I was potentially helping them waste money. So at the beginning now, we say, you know, who is your target market? And if you tell me everyone, I'm going to get a blunt knife and slowly stab myself to death and bleed out in front of you, you know, and so I'm saying that, what is your positioning? Are you a high end or a middle or low end? And what are the things you want to say special? And I say, if you can't answer that to me now, and I'm going to give you a few minutes to kind of write it down, then everything I do in here, you have to put on a shelf, because all of this stuff here is just tactics. And what you really need to know is that, and I think that is the thing that most business owners, small business owners, find very hard, even if they're good at doing it for themselves, like a coach or a consultant. I'm actually just about to start work with someone, and she is like one of the most amazing business growth specialists I've ever come across. The business that she's grown amazing, has absolutely no idea how to explain that to someone else about herself.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
And that's the hard part. And I guess if you're not sure if that's you, the easiest thing to do is to get someone to ask you that question. So what do you do? And then look at your watch as you try to explain it. And if you are still talking after 15, 20 minutes or even 5 minutes, it's too long. So you've really, it's funny, I've got my extra brain here today.
Oh, I love the brain. Explain the brain.
Which when you're listening to the podcast, you can't see, but I'm holding a little brain in front of me.
It's quite disgusting, actually. It's squishy and she's about to eat it. I think it's just, no, she's not.
But the thing is, our brains are being absolutely walloped. They're being so bombarded with messages these days that if you can't succinctly, very, very quickly, in a killer intro, in a bio or a hero story, get across what is it that you do and why someone should choose you, you've lost them. It's too late, and they'll be bright, shiny object-itis off to something else. So, you know, you've got to realize that if you want to stand out in a very, very overcrowded world, and back in the 1970s, our brains were being hit with about 500 branded messages a day. Today, it's over 5,000. So that's how extraordinary that it's just become, with all the different social media channels. Now there's Clubhouse and there's all these other new things.
It's too much. It's overload, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a word that someone used the other day, which I love, called infobesity, which I thought was...
I really like that.
Infobesity. It's what we're all suffering from. There's too much information. So if it takes you longer than about 2.5 minutes max to explain what you do and why someone should choose you, it's too long. You need to figure it out. You need to get really clear. And one of the discussion we're having today mostly is around your niche. What do you do and who do you want to serve? Because my saying is you can't help every Mary in the dairy, right? You just can't. It's exhausting.
It is exhausting, and no one picks you, because if you're showing them that you do everything, everyone's going to be like, I can't. That's too much for my brain. It's exploding. Tell me the one thing you can help me with. You can tell. I always say, be an iceberg. You know, like at the top, you show them the little bit of stuff you do at the top, and then you can have all this other stuff underneath. But that little iceberg is the thing they need to know about first.
Absolutely, 100%.
Actually, I read this thing years ago, and I use it quite a lot, and it reminded me of that 5,500 pieces of content. It was that if we picked up the paper today, not that anyone actually buys a print paper, but if we picked up the print paper, apparently it's got more words in it than Socrates would have read in his entire lifetime.
Wow.
I know. That's the information overload, right?
Yeah.
And also...
And he was one of the smart ones. So
yes, he actually could read. And the other one I find really fascinating, just looking at TikTok and Reels and things like that, is, you know, TikTok started as a 60-second platform, and then it went down to 30 seconds and 15. And now they're saying the optimum time is 7. So, you know, like trying to get your message across succinctly in a short little squeezy bit of time is really essential. And it has to flow off the tongue. You can't go, I'm not too sure how to explain this, or, you know, I think it's not having to be too clever with it, because you don't want people to misunderstand it, but it is hard, isn't it, for people to feel like they've got that piece of information they can pass on right away.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a thing inside the brain called the amygdala, and I know you know what this is.
Oh, you explain it away. This is great.
It's a very, very old part of the brain. Seth Godin calls it the lizard brain, because it really is so ancient, and it's there to keep us safe. So it acts like a filter. So if there's all this noise and confusion, it's just going to block out stuff or filter out stuff that you don't think is necessary or interesting. So you have to actually understand exactly who your niche is, who your ideal client is, and why have they got to that point in their life that they now need you? What is making them look for you? It brings on something in the brain called reticular activation. So this is the example I always use is, say, for example, there might have been a car that you always wanted to have, and the minute you went, oh, I love a yellow Ferrari, I'd really like a red Porsche, or I'd like a black Mercedes, whatever it is, you just decided I wanted whatever the brand or model was. All of a sudden, you would have seen lots more of them around the place. Yeah, you would have seen the ads, there would have been loads of them around you on the roads, and they were always there. It's just your brain blocked them out because they weren't interesting. The minute you went, I want one of those, that's when you started noticing them. So that's what you've got to do with your brand, is the minute someone says, I really need a great forensic accountant, or I really need someone who's holistic around dentistry, or I need someone who can help women who are mothers in the workplace, or I need someone who just needs to help kids graduate into a different school, whatever it is, whatever they need right now, what's led them to that point, what are their dreams and their desires and their pains and their worries and their anxieties and so on, and why should they see and notice and engage with you? So that's going to help you build a brand, but it's also going to help you create content that you know is going to stand out at the right time.
Because I look at that and I go, okay, so I've got a question for you about your ideal client, because you talked about the WAFTAM, which I really love that phrase. So for you, if we talk about people who come out of corporate, and I love that that's one of your target markets, because I see them all the time and I know they struggle. For you, a lot of the people that would come, it would be unlikely. You'd still work with them, but it wouldn't necessarily be people who are fresh out of corporate. It would be those ones who've done the WAFTAM moment and have looked at it and gone, I've just wasted all this money now. And almost it's a come to Jesus moment of, I need to repent for all the money I've spent. Is that right?
Absolutely, Rachel. And it's interesting because I'd much rather work with people before they waste money. But so often, if I had a dollar for every time someone has said to me, I wish I'd met you 6 months ago, or I wish I'd met you 2 years ago, because we would have wasted so less time and money and effort on stuff that just wasn't going to work. And now they get the clarity and they know what they're doing. So our ideal client, the big pain point for them is frustration. So they think they're busy, they are doing all the hours, they're putting so much effort into building their business, and they just feel like they're treading water. And they're the world's best kept secret. They know they've got really good product or an amazing service, or they've got something that's really, really good, and it works. When they get a client in front of them or a prospect in front of them, they know they can convert and they know they get results. The trouble they've got
they need more.
Down the road, there's a young chickie babe who's only just come out of college and she started afresh or whatever.
Got a chihuahua in a hand pocket.
She's really good on Instagram.
Yes.
She's winning all this work, but she's nowhere near as good as you are. And it's so unfair. It brings out the Libran in me, Rachel, that it's like, oh, it's so unfair. I want to balance the scales a little bit. So so that's the frustration, is that people are, they're already working hard and they're already spending a lot of time and money, but it's just not working. And they're just going, I'm better than this.
Because I do think that is one of the biggest things that people who are excellent at what they do have to understand, isn't it? That actually it's not how good we are when it comes to marketing, it's how well we tell the story of how good we are. So you can have someone who is actually not experienced, who hasn't got any of the knowledge and base you've got. They're just better at conveying that message to a client, to another base, you know.
Absolutely.
And that's why they'll be chosen.
Yeah. Grant Cardone, he's got a great saying. He says, it's not the best that wins, it's the best known that wins. And it's so true. I mean, years ago, we used to talk about the Betamax versus VHS. Yes. God, I'm showing my age with this technology.
Yeah. Oh, so I have no idea what you're talking about. I wish I had no idea. I definitely know what you're talking about.
So this is a technology where you had two different types of videotapes. And one of them was far superior quality, better sound, better visual, everything about it was better quality, but it didn't last very long. So the tapes were only, 30 to 40 minutes long, and the average movie is like an hour and a half. So for a beta movie, you'd have to take a tape out and put another one back in to watch a whole movie. VHS was shit quality. It used to catch all the time. It was it used to wear out really quickly, but it was 2 hours, 3 hours long. You could watch a whole movie without having to change the tape.
You just blow my mind. I had no idea that was the difference.
That was the difference. It was all about usability.
Okay.
So VHS absolutely took off, and when videotapes were out, good old, all these video stores and those Blockbuster that no longer exists, all their shelves were VHS with a couple of Betamax, and in the end, a couple of Blu-ray discs, if anyone remembers.
The Blu-ray, my husband had a Blu-ray player. He was convinced it was the next big thing, and then Netflix arrived.
Correct, and the technology just went completely. So that's the thing. It's not the best that wins. You can be one of the best coaches, one of the best accountants. You can have amazing results with your clients, but if no one knows about it, you'll get beaten.
I love it's not the best that wins, because I think that I feel that people who have got a lot of integrity and are really good people really struggle with this concept, because it's not fair. And we have this strong idea of this fairness, that Libran side of you. We have this strong idea that if you are the best, you will win out. And it's not true.
No, it's very sad, but it's not true. And it is perception. It is, and it's weird. You can get Amazon best-selling author status in 3 days. It's not hard. It's a process. You can do it. It doesn't cost anything. You can get it done. Does it mean anything? Probably not.
But it sounds great.
Probably not. But if you say, I'm an Amazon best-selling author and my book's a best-selling book, that's all perception, because that tells you that it's been read, that somebody has downloaded it and wanted it.
Did you hear about the guy, Mike Winnett? He does entrepreneur stuff. He's in the UK. He proved the system right. He loaded up a book to Amazon that had literally, it was a 60-page book, and it just had blank page here as the text, and it was a bestseller. And he only had to sell 30 copies to make it a bestseller.
That's all you can do. You don't even have to do that. You just have to be one of the best sellers in your category on the day.
Yes.
Screenshot and you're done. I've done it, I don't know how many times. But the thing is, it's not, you've still got to take the effort to put the book together.
Yes, right? And you're still got to be good, because you're going to get found out, right?
Correct, because this is the thing. If you then get put to the test, if you then go to market and you're a speaker and you talk about things and someone says, oh, I'd like a copy of your book, and you're in the back of your mind going, it's a 60-page book that just says blank page.
Yes.
You are never going to be authentic. You're never going to sell it. It won't happen. There'll be a misalignment. And people, I mean, you know that when you come across somebody who's disingenuous, you get that feeling and you just know that it's not right.
It's not a good feeling.
Absolutely. And chances are they're either overselling or they're trying too hard or they're trying to help every Mary in the dairy, and they're, you know, you can't put your finger on it, but they really aren't genuine about what they're doing.
I'm writing down every Mary in the dairy because I think that's awesome.
Every Mary in the dairy, absolutely. So
don't you guys call it a corner shop, or are you bringing out your Kiwi side and that side?
No, it's definitely a Kiwi side. See, the dairy to me was definitely the place you went to buy the ice cream. So that
yeah. Whereas when you're in Australia, the corner shop also happens to often have nice salami.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Well, certainly in Melbourne and Sydney. I don't see
Yes.
it in Brisbane. Brisbane's more, you're going to find mangoes and stuff. But
oh, okay. Well, I'm jealous about that too. So can you, let's just talk a little bit about your target market. And then I'm going to, at the end of this, after we finish, I'm going to do a little bit about how to broaden that a bit further for people who are listening who might not be that niche. But what do you think people in your niche find is tricky about getting who their voice is, that personal brand, or that thing that makes them different? What are some of the things that they find tricky?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm experiencing a lot right now, and it's a growing trend, is as entrepreneurs, and I'm going back to the entrepreneurial brain, get my brain out again.
Oh, yes, please.
We are really good at overpowering that amygdala that I talked about, that fear center in our brain. So when we stepped out of corporate or we started our own businesses, we basically had this fear center of our brain shouting at us, it's going to be too hard, it's going to be too difficult, where do you get clients, you're going to pay the bills. It was screaming at you not to do it. But you basically said, no, I know there's going to be risks, but I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to do it anyway, right? So you overpowered the fear center in your brain. So you've got entrepreneurs have superhuman brains. The trouble is with superhuman brains is they always have the kryptonite. And the kryptonite is bright, shiny object-itis. And that's what I see being a massive thing right now. And it's because we've got all these opportunities. So back in the day when I was working in advertising before the internet, you had TV, radio, press, billboard, a little bit of outdoor, maybe some direct marketing, you know, nothing too difficult in those sorts of terms, but it was expensive. And you couldn't test it. If you wanted to test a TV ad, you were up for $200,000-$300,000.
Yeah.
If it didn't work, you had to start again, right? So because of that, there was always strategy. There was research, there was testing, there was making sure that this concept, this idea was going to work, right? It was on the right channel at the right time, right audience, right message.
You do focus groups and stuff, eh? Like
you get everything. You almost research stuff to death. But anyway,
yeah, absolutely. Well, you don't want to get the ad campaign fail and then have your name on the chopping block for the next restructure, right?
Absolutely. Well, you just move advertising agencies, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but then came along the internet. So now you can create your own YouTube channel and have your own TV station. You can have your own radio station on Clubhouse or a podcast. You can write books. You can create online magazine. You can do whatever you want for next to nothing. So that's great. It's awesome for entrepreneurs that you can do that. And it's two-way. You get people responding to you and you can test things really quickly. The trouble is it's almost too easy. So you do the Gary Vaynerchuk and you just do content, and all of a sudden you're all over the place. So what I'm seeing at the moment, and the big thing I think people are grappling with, is what's the difference between my business brand and my personal brand?
Oh, I think this is huge.
Yep. So they end up with...
It's hard, right? Working out what that line is.
So they end up with a business website over here, and then they've started up, I'm going to write a book. So then there's a site over here for my book, and I'm going to be a speaker. So there's another website, and I've got Instagram for this, and I've got LinkedIn for that. And then I do this, and all of a sudden they've got multiple platforms, multiple brands, and they are basically going insane. So that's when they come to us. And I love those sorts of clients because basically I teach them about brand hierarchy. And I talk to them about, look, you've got this bright, shiny object-itis. You've overpowered the fear center in your brain. You keep coming up with these amazing content ideas. You now need to figure out what's the litmus test. What stays, what fits with your brand and what doesn't. You need to actually sit down and work out where do you want your brand to be in 3 years' time. Because then you can, every time you have a mad idea in the shower or when you're walking the dog or getting drunk at night, like Annette and I used to do when we came up with brand names. Some of the best ideas come from late nights. But yeah, when you have those things in the light of day and when you're sober, you can go, does this fit with my brand? Is this going to help me get closer to my goal? Or is it just a distraction? Is this going to help me be recognized as what I want to be known for in the marketplace? Is it going to build me a reputation as the go-to in that space? And is it going to earn me respect?
I love it.
Charge more for what I do.
Yeah,
and if it's
I love
not,
that.
it goes.
So this is great, because this is actually why I'm not using Clubhouse at the moment. I love Clubhouse as an idea, and I love the tool it has. Most of my clients are not on that space. Some of them, I could say, oh, there's a big market, I can, but my clients are nervous about using Facebook and Instagram. So going on Clubhouse is a bad idea. I would love to be on Clubhouse. I could happily spend days. I saw someone the other day who said, in the last 7 days, I've spent 70 hours on Clubhouse. And I mean, I would love that. I love that. But I consider that for me at the moment is a bright, shining object. I've got a plan. I know where I'm going. And it's so easy to let FOMO set in and go, if I don't do this new thing, like what's going to happen to my business? Well, actually, it's growing great. I don't need that. I'm going to focus on my core messaging.
Yeah, absolutely. You've hit it on the head, Rachel. And it is that FOMO that if you let the bright, shiny objectitis rule what you do, and FOMO takes over, you'll end up with this really scattergun approach. And the trouble is, if you're not sure on what it is you do and how your personal brand fits with your business brand and so on, and what that hierarchy is, how do you expect your prospect to be sure of what you do and to trust you? So you've got to be really clear.
Do you think too that there is a thing where, like I always say, that if you're the business, like you're a coach or a consultant, your own values do have to be very similar to your business values, otherwise you're going to get unstuck very fast. But do you think there's still a thing too where people are reluctant to show too much of themselves online because they're worried that it will remove from themselves a layer of privacy that is so hard to find in these days? Like, what do you say to people who are struggling with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you've sort of got to get to a point where you've got to get real with where we are in the world today. And if you want your privacy, don't post it anywhere. You know, because in reality, why are you putting on Facebook something that you only want your family to see? I mean, in reality, you see your family, or if you don't, because they're in another country, then mark it family only. So only your family get to see it. You know, otherwise it's just an ego trip. So let's get real about this. I did a test on Facebook a number of years ago now, and I started up, I've got my own profile and a business page, and I started a personal profile, like a fan page type thing as well. Like Oprah and Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah, I've got one too. Yeah, good ego boost.
Start that up and I'd try and drive traffic there and see what happened. Yeah. It was so misaligned, it wasn't funny. Where I really do a lot of my work on Facebook is in groups. And I can only interact in groups as me. Yeah. So I actually shut down my hero profile, if you like, on Facebook. And I just turned my private page into my personal brand page. So people see stuff on there. They see me sailing. They see me when I go skydiving. They see me when I'm speaking. They see me when I'm, you know, posting something inspirational or I'm inviting them to an event. So it's a really nice mix of content that's useful, but a bit about me, nothing too personal that someone could go and trade my identity and steal my bank account. You know, I'm not going to be stupid.
No.
But enough that they get to know who is it behind the brand. So there's two things here. Your own personal DNA as the business owner is going to flow over into your business brand. There's no doubt about it. Your values, your mission, the things that you stand for, they are all going to come out in the way that you run your business, the type of people you have around you, the systems and processes you have or don't have. I mean, just look at Virgin, for example. Richard Branson is absolutely 100% throughout.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Unashamedly. And he gets away with things because of who he is that other people would have a huge outcry about, because everyone's like, oh, it's just Richard.
It's Richard. He can get away with that.
He can get away with it.
Yep. So, but on the flip side, he also posts on social media when something personal happens, when his mother passed away the other day, you know. So you get to know them as a person. We don't buy from businesses and brands. We buy from people. We want to know who's behind the business. So
it's interesting that, because I had a disagreement on the internet with another marketer, and he was talking about how Instagram, you should never show on your business account, you should never show photos of your children, your pets, what you're doing for dinner and those sort of things. And I was like, you'll know about Whittaker's, Australians probably don't, but Whittaker's chocolate. And they've just done a Mother's Day campaign where they paid an agency to interview people who work in their office about their relationships with their mothers and their children.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, but, you know, yes, it's okay. You have limits, you know. You obviously don't want to hear about every scrap you're having with your children or your husband or whatever, you know, and I don't want to have emotional meltdowns coming at me every day. But sharing a bit of your private life helps people feel like they're talking to a real human.
Yeah, absolutely. And the big thing, I love the Whittaker's brand. I mean, it's good, honest chocolate. That's one of the
well, it is. Yeah.
It's down to earth. That's what they talk about, real people. And I love that. I'm going to have to go and check out that campaign. But yeah, the big thing to ask yourself is, what's the purpose of this? If the purpose is to show the Whittaker's staff and their relationship with their mums make people feel good about buying the chocolate, awesome. It's absolutely spot on brand. If it's, oh, let's do some fun thing and talk about mums, it just, you know,
it's nothing, right?
The chocolate. So, you know, you've got to think about the purpose. And I do it naturally. You know, we talked before about the stuff that we do with ease, and it's that my little statement, you know, the stuff, your expert ease is the stuff you do with ease that other people find difficult. That's why they call it expert ease. Yeah, you just do it.
I like that.
Like that knife through butter idea. Yeah, it's just so easy. My expertise, my superpower is taking an everyday occurrence and turning it into a personal branding lesson. I could be in the supermarket, I could be on the boat, I could be tramping in the bush, I could be working, I could be cooking bacon and eggs, and I will find something that I can turn into a personal branding story. Journalists have it, you know, the storytellers have it, people who, but if you are aligned with your brand and you are the leader of your business, then you can find a story that's relevant and engaging, and it's on purpose.
I was actually going to say too, with that thing where people worry about it, one of the things I found is I've stepped more into, I used to step back a lot. I was kind of waiting for someone to pick me. And I talk about how you've sometimes got to build your own stage. But what I've realized is the more I've stepped into my stage and walked on it and found my light of where I go, the easier it's been to separate my personal and professional life. I just don't take my phone with me when I'm on holiday. If I do, I'm aware that I am gloating. Like I'll actually say smug comment here, you know. But I don't take it on dates. I don't take it with my family. I don't want to have my phone at dinner times. I want to have a separate life that is separate. And actually stepping into the light of doing the stuff more publicly has allowed me to have a private life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which sounds weird, right?
Yeah. And you've got to pick your time. You've got to pick your moment. But if you've got, like you say, if you've mapped it out, which is exactly what you teach people to do, you've got a content plan. B, you know your audience. C, you know exactly what it is that they want and when they want it. So if you know the time of day that they're going to be sitting down going, oh, what a huge, massive day, you know, I'm exhausted, and you've got something that can help them, you know exactly when to post and what to put out there. And it could be a branded message. It could be a product sale. It could be a coaching invitation, or it could just be a story about, you know, something that you've done, or a client that's achieved something, or a story about magnesium, or whatever it is you want to talk about that makes them think, oh my goodness, how did she know? Or how did they know that this is what I needed right now?
It's a mind-reading moment.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So what advice would you give to people who are wanting to commit to a niche but are scared that it will limit them? You know, I quite often have people say, but if I could, like I said, you know, before we said your niche would be, you know, people who've gone through that WAF-TAM moment, but though you're not going to say no to someone if they do come straight out of corporate, are you?
No, if they've still got that same common need, that they're just frustrated, they know they're really good and they've got to get themselves out there. Doesn't matter how much money they have or haven't wasted.
No.
Their passion for we know the people that we don't help. And those are the ones who go, oh, I don't know about public speak. Oh, I don't think I could be I just want to be behind the scenes. I don't really want to get in the media. They're not our client.
They're not your client.
We'd have to convince them to enter awards. We don't do awards for people who don't want to win. Surprise, surprise. We do it. So we help people who, and it's funny actually, because there's a fine line. This is where the personality and the human elements got to come in. Because there's a lot of people who go, I think I should enter an award. And then when they get to do it and we send them we've helped them write the entry and their support document, we send it back to them and they go, I think you've got the wrong person.
Oh, that's quite lovely though, don't you think?
Absolutely. And it's like, no, that's your story. That's what you told us. And, you know, there is that period. We love seeing it. And I love seeing people just grow into this person that they really are, with the confidence and the self-belief, because they've now won an award for what they do. It's just extraordinary to see. But yeah, so there's a fine line. I think go back to that FOMO. Is it really, You know, is it really an actual fear that you are completely worried about and you would never go there with your brand and your business? Then don't do it.
Yeah.
Because if you can't live your brand, it's pointless. But if you know this is where you've got to go, if you are frustrated where you are and you know this is where I want to be an author, I want to be a speaker, I want to create more impact, I want to influence more, I want to help more people. If you're really passionate about doing those sorts of things, then you need to look at, well, what's it going to take to get there? And it is a case of saying no to stuff.
I do think it is. No is a very empowering thing, isn't it, when you know your niche?
Yeah. And it doesn't need to be explained. You can just say no. I do it all the time when somebody says, can you come and speak it here or whatever? And I look at it and I go, is it the right fit for my audience? Is it the right people there? Are they paying me the right fee? Because if they're not going to do that and it's the wrong audience, what's the point?
Yeah.
And if it's nothing to do with either of those, then I'm just going to run away. So, you know, and so I just say no. I don't explain I'm not available. I just say no. No.
Perfect. I love no's, confident no's. It's great. But I want you to say yes to me now, because I would love you to tell people what they can do if they want to know a bit more about you. And I have signed up to the thing that you're going to share. And oh my gosh, I was devastated because I got it and I was in a really busy space and I was like, I need to get back to this. I'm actually going to work out. Do you send it on the same day every week?
Yes, every Wednesday.
So I'm actually going to put it in my, this is how good it is. And I get lots of emails. I'm actually going to put a note in my calendar to make sure that I leave space every week on that day to action whatever's in that email. So I'm going to, that's my warm up for this. Like, I am fussy about emails and I think people send out lots of crap, and I got this and my brain exploded with joy. I did have a bit of a shiny object issue going on here, but tell people, you know, how they can get hold of you, but tell them about what I've just been talking about now, because it's absolutely amazing.
Brilliant. I love it. I love that you are getting so systemized around it.
Because I have to.
When you're building your brand and building your profile, you have to put in that little bit of extra effort. It might only be 1 hour a week that you allocate into your diary. I'm just going to work on my brand. And whether that's getting onto a podcast, writing a blog, you know, going and doing a video, interviewing someone, whatever it is, build your brand so that when someone Googles you, you're absolutely Google-licious. You are all over page 1 to 10. People can find you, but more than just finding your Facebook profile or your LinkedIn profile or your website, they can find third-party content about you.
Love it.
Other people writing about you, interviewing you, you know, names like Forbes and Fox News. And I was in Authority magazine the other day. I mean, hello, what a perfect Authority magazine. So yeah, so we send out something called the Weekly Rocket, which is what Rachel is alluding to.
Yes, amazing.
It's currently an email. We're upgrading. It's going to get exciting. You're going to be part of the Weekly Rocket 2.0. It's been running for about over 2 years now. When I first started it, Rachel, I was going to call it the Daily Rocket, and then I realised I was insane. That that
would have been insane, and I would not have been able to cope.
Weekly is fine. So it's once a week, and it's 6 to 10 opportunities that we've found, and there's lots of different places we get them from. Yes, you can sign up to Source Bottle as well, and Haro, Help a Reporter Out. There's lots of places you can go to get these alerts that you've got journalists looking for specialists. But we also include podcasts looking for people to interview, bloggers who want guest blogging material, events that people like, online summits and actual live events that people want speakers. They're not all paid events. They're not all paid opportunities. Some of them are actually you pay to get into them. But again, if it's the right fit and it's getting you right in front of the right audience and it's going to create leads for your brand and your business, then it's worth doing it. Make sure you check all those things before you go for them. Is this the right fit for me? Otherwise, you could end up wasting your time. But yeah, so there's 6 to 10 of those, and it's totally free, and you can go through. We just select the ones we know are ideal for our audience. So if you are a coach or a mentor or a professional service provider, finance, real estate, sales, franchising, whatever, a business person.
Anyone that's got a personal brand around services, right? Yeah.
Correct. And it can be products as well.
But like someone who's like the name, like I'm thinking of someone like, you know, with a thick, there's Brianne West. So like someone who's got a name, or Nadia Lim with My Food Bag. There's New Zealand versions, but like someone's got a name with a brand. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's where you want to be the expert in your field. So you getting mentioned in the media or you getting interviewed, or whatever. So it's called the Weekly Rocket. It's totally free, comes out every Wednesday. And you can subscribe to it, which is cool.
So I'm definitely putting that in the show notes, but also, do you want to tell people, is it like, if they wanted to work with you, what would they do? I mean, like right now I'm thinking maybe I should just sell my business and like come over, risk COVID-19, come and like just, because honestly, firehouse, I called you a powerhouse in my introduction with you, and I feel like I undersold you.
You're on board as another Audacious agency member. It's
yeah, exactly. I think my husband would be a little bit furious with me, but anyway.
So yeah, the audaciousagency.com is the place to go to, theaudaciousagency.com. There's loads of resource on there as well. There's my book, Selling You, which is all about personal branding. Annette's book called The Media Magnet, about how to get yourself in the media. There's the planner. There's so much stuff on there, but there's also, you can look at book marketing. You can look at online presence. You can look at personal branding and publicity. We've got some syndication packages on there that give you guaranteed media. And the thing about those sorts of paid opportunities to have paid media is we've also got repurposing tools on there. So when you get yourself, and this would be a big lesson from today, Rachel, is when you get yourself in the media or a blog or a podcast, don't just let it sit there and waft out into nowhere. Yeah. Repurpose it. Put it in your diary that every 6 months you reposition it.
I'm 100% with you. If you put all that time and effort into that work, why would you show it to someone once? Because your audience, only 5 or 10% of your audience might see it if it's really great.
Absolutely. And on your about page on your website, that's where you put all the links to the podcast interviews that you've had or the media that you've got. Put that on there because it's credibility. And if somebody's looking for you to be the expert or lead a workshop or speak or whatever, they're going to go there and they're going to have a listen to what you're like. So if you can put as much on there as possible, it gives them a wee taster. And if you are up against somebody else, if you want to be an expert, and they're looking at a number of speakers, the one who wins is the one who shows them and demonstrates that they can do it.
And that they can see is going to deliver to their people, right?
Absolutely.
So Lauren, you've been absolutely amazing. And really, I'm only wrapping it up because I've got another podcast I've got to record in about 10 minutes. And I could cancel, but I think she'd be a little bit annoyed. But seriously, oh my gosh, I'm hanging out. Would you consider coming on board a little bit later down the track?
Yeah, we've got loads to talk about.
Yeah, I think we do too. And what I would really love is, I'll ask you this later too, but I know you gave me some really awesome information about you, but I would love just you to tell me a little bit, just you can email me a little bit about your New Zealand connections. I know you used to be a New Zealander and you've transversed over the...
I'm never going to stop being a Kiwi, no matter where I am. So we've been in Australia 11 years now, but no, definitely a Kiwi through and through. Go the All Blacks. I've been watching the America's Cup,
Australians watch and listen too.
I wouldn't live anywhere else. Australia is awesome.
I know, it's amazing. I used to live there too. I think it's amazing. Well, thank you so much. And I'm going to make sure that I've got your links in the show notes and also just some lovely things about you. I'm also considering, I've written down some of your words and I might do like a little bit of a directory so people understand what those words are.
I love it. Yes, why not? You can check out my website as well. It's got lots of, all these things.
Sounds perfect. I love that, Lauren. Thank you so much for coming today. And I'm going to wrap this up. What was that?
You're very welcome. The biggest thing I think I'd like to leave everybody with today is to remember this. You have the most amazing gifts that the world needs. And you do deserve to be well known, well paid and wanted. Just get out there and do it.
That's amazing. So I'm going to, at the end of this, I'm going to do a little thing, just taking a few of these and taking it a bit broader from your niche into other people's things. And this is so good. I feel like I'm going to be listening to this when it goes live again too, so that I can learn from it. It's going to be on my repeat to motivate myself in the morning. So thank you so much.
Brilliant. Well, you're very welcome, Rachel. It's lovely to meet you and I'm looking forward to talking to you soon. Cheers.